if you're listening to Australian Story or anything like that with a lot of slang, you may look something up in a dictionary that's not there. So where are slang resources online? I've got under the Moodle, or in the Moodle rather. I'll just take you there. 3, 2, 1. Then we'll go to the Moodle. Under Australian Language and Culture, there are a few slang dictionaries here. We'll visit most of these another time, but Dingham Dictionary, that's not a link to the actual dictionary. That is the one I mentioned. Remember we were doing the comedy last Friday? And I said that's your best slang dictionary. Looks like that. You can often get copies in Oxfam for like $2 or $3. But yeah, I probably wouldn't wait if I were you. I think you need to buy it soon. So it's not the actual, it's not going to help you look up words online. What will is this one here, number 4, Urban Dictionary. Does anybody know Urban Dictionary already? Now this is not just a Australian slang site. This is a world English slang site. And it's like a big Wikipedia. People write their own definitions in here. So if we took one, for example, stir. I was stirring him. Let's see what we get. We could get some really colourful stuff. Now, you have to be careful. Stir. Prison. He's doing stir. Okay, so that means jail. But to be moved or shaken, jail. Okay, they've got jail coming up here. Australian slang. See how here? So it's true that Americans, they'll say, he's in the stir. And that means jail. And I'm not really sure why, stir. But we do say, someone's stir crazy. If you're stir crazy, it means like you're crazy because you've been locked up for a long time. So if you've been home all day, for example, and you haven't gone out, and you're feeling kind of restless, I'm stir crazy.
But how about sometimes they say sterling? They just sterling.
Yeah, that's right. Stirring, not sterling, stirring. It's this meaning. It's this meaning. So if you say somebody's in the stir, notice that's a noun. So you've got to think about the grammar of it. Here, somebody's just stirring you, Australian slang, to tease somebody playfully about something, which they're usually innocent of. For example, teasing them about someone about being lazy when you don't actually think they're lazy, but you just want to see their reaction. I was just stirring him, and you can see the just. It's often together with it. So I was just joking. When I called him an idiot, I didn't really mean it. Now, so what you're getting here is, it's telling you, okay, in Australia, this is how they use the word. And if we look further down, it might say, look in, now there's a sexual one. You do get a lot of sexual ones. Of course, in slang is often sexual. So be warned, this site, XXX rating, not for those under 18, and it could easily offend you. It could be sexual, sexist, racist. I've seen some totally disgusting sexist and racist stuff here. That is the problem with it, that because it's open to everybody and they write, there's slang about different races and people write, and they're racist themselves, and they write these really horrible definitions. So you will see that stuff. So, word of warning, if you find that difficult, maybe, stay away. But it is on another level. It's got a lot of good information. So like that one, for example, tells us exactly the meaning that we saw here. Yeah. So that's Urban Dictionary. Now, you don't need to go through the Moodle with it. Once you know the resource, you can use it. If you want a safer resource, then that one I mentioned before, the hard copy, that, you won't find racism or sexism in something like that. That's going to be just like a proper published piece. So you choose your resource, but I think if you are listening to Australian Story and you do want to look up slang, then Urban Dictionary is a good site. You've got to be careful there, however, because what they say in the US or England is not necessarily how it's being used here. So that does add to the complexity of Urban Dictionary, whereas this one will be, how the word is used here. That'll be much clearer and straightforward. So that's why I still recommend that one for you to have. But,
It's
often,
Australian only, isn't it?
yeah. Well, yes, but there's also slang in there that's also British slang and American slang, the stuff we all share, plus the bits that are particularly Australian. So, yeah. But I think you should order that as soon as you can, because I think they're saying $20 there, so not a bad investment. Yeah, so look, that's just a quick journey into some of the ABC resources. There was actually just one more before we leave it. Maybe I'll just whoop. Just while we're on it, so we make sure we cover everything, but the other a lot on the ABC is good. The comedy stuff, as I've mentioned, and we'll continue to look at that. But just under C, totally different listening experience. Catalyst. It's a science show. And this is better for academic listening, quite different from Australian Story. And we go to the website, visit website, and you can look at your past programs here and see a whole lot of, there's the archive. If you see this word, archive, that's not archive, archive. That, whenever you see that on the web, that's like past programs or past copies of something, yeah? So you can go back, and we can go back to 2010. Archive.
Archive.
Yes, not archive. No. In some language, European language, I think it is archive, but in English, archive. Thing on penguins there, and you can watch the program, and you can get the transcript there. There's the transcript just automatically straight below it. You don't have to open it up. So these are often relatively short, sort of just a little 4-minute thing.
You might think that Antarctica is the last place in the world to see the effects of human-induced climate change.
Now there's an interesting word, an important word, induce. And we haven't got to it yet with our Latin list. We've had a bit of a holiday from our Latin. We're coming back to it. Ducere, to lead. Induced, to bring from one thing to another, so to cause, human caused. Really useful and important word in many respects, many different senses. So you can see there, we're getting a different kind of language, aren't we, from Australian Story. It's academic.
But you'd be wrong.
Academic.
Even here in the Antarctic, things are changing. And among these penguins, there are winners and losers. This isn't a daily penguin.
And so on. And, I'm sure you've seen such shows before. The thing about the ABC is, of course, you've got a transcript there. And you can see it's pretty short. So these are kind of lighter, shorter pieces. But, you could do some interesting things with that. You could cut and paste that into the academic word list. Gap maker. It's on science. So I bet you get a whole lot of academic word list words. And you've watched it already, so you know what it means, you know what it's about. So if you did your gap maker highlighter exercise on that, you've already got all these kind of ideas and images in your head. It's going to help you guess better, and it's going to be a more meaningful kind of exercise, isn't it? If you can make your own exercises and have a sense of meaning about it and knowledge about the topic, that new words are going to stick a lot better if you already know about a topic and it's kind of interesting for you, instead of just some random exercise like on the purple page. You know, that's good practice, but ultimately it's all about different topics, every single sentence, it's all over the place, it's not connected to you. It's not the best way to learn language. The best way is get into something interesting and then make your own exercises. What I want to try to do throughout the course is make you aware of the resources where you can make your own kind of academic word list, vocabulary exercises around something that's interesting for you. That's when you're going to learn words best and how they work. Yeah? So, you know, some of you I know come from a science sort of background, whether it's health science or whatever. That's a pretty good show. It doesn't necessarily have to be health science. It could be like ecology, like that. It's still a lot of that general English, that academic English is there. Plus you've got that visual support, plus you've got the transcript. So another pretty good resource. Catalyst. Okay, moving on. Marley, if you can just have a look on Ahmed's thing, you know, at the same time. And just, what are we going to move on to? Time. We'll have a break in a minute, however. Okay, let's go to grammar today. And just want to remember where I put this one. You can search, see I'm looking for a thing on connectives, Control F, we've got 300 links on this page and I can't always remember where I've put it. I thought it was under writing, it is. So this is a way, if you've forgotten where something is on the Moodle, you can just type in your keyword and hopefully, like connectives. So this is what I'm looking for under writing. Connecting ideas, I mentioned this last week. So let's have a look. In your argument essay, clearly any essay, any writing, you're going to need to connect ideas together and show that they're similar or opposite or whatever. So, connectives. We have three this is the grammar of connectives. And I'll go through it just very quickly. Overview. What I'm going to do is introduce this site to you and I want you to work through it over the next couple of weeks. So that in a couple of weeks, say by not this Friday, next Friday, you've read it and you've done the exercises. And I might throw you something just to test your knowledge, all right, in a couple of Fridays. Because it's fairly basic and important information. So when we connect ideas, we connect them three ways. Broad ways. Conjunctions. I'm just going to jump down a bit here. Adverbs and prepositions. And it explains there and gives some examples, like however, adverb. Yep. Let's have a look at in each category quickly. Okay, within conjunctions like but and, they're our simplest ones, we have two categories. I've mentioned this one before. Coordinating conjunctions that join equal ideas, but, or, and. Remember fanboys, that list that I've mentioned? Or we have subordinating conjunctions, when one idea is more important than another. So words like because, if, so conditionals. See, that idea, if you don't have your calculator, you won't be able to participate in class. That's a more important idea than that. Okay? So we show that inequality by using different conjunctions. So we've got two types of conjunction. You need to know which conjunctions fit into which category so you can control your writing. Conjunctive adverbs like moreover, however, for example. Prepositions after, despite, because of, not because is back under conjunction, isn't it? Because of, suddenly, it becomes a preposition and we have to treat it differently. Prepositions, we always have a noun after a preposition, always. So, because of something, illness. That's why this person had to take leave from work. preposition because here's a noun. Most people on my dormitory floor. That is a noun. It's a noun phrase. So you don't have to necessarily just have one word. You can have a phrase. But you must follow it with a noun. That's not how conjunctions work. Conjunctions join clauses, and it's quite a different grammatical pattern. So if you want to connect and control your ideas, you've got to understand the grammar behind it. Okay? So that's your introduction. Now, once you've done that, we look over here. This is a very big website with a lot of other grammar, and I want you to ignore most of it. We're just in this bit here, which is called Expressing Logical Relationships, the introduction. And we've come into connectives, yeah. So it's this section here that we need to do the work on. So I think it's the next bit, logical relationships. Yeah. So if you click there, logical relationships, then it's going to show us different connectives for different kind of logical relationships. Let's look at additive. Okay, so additive is like when you want to say, you say an idea and then you want to present another similar idea, not an opposite one that's kind of similar. So these are typical conjunctions. So once we've been introduced to these three categories, each one of these then breaks up that logic into these particular categories. So here are conjunctions that show additive relationships there. Right? And it's just showing you how they work. And now, remember our next category, adverbs. And here are the adverbs that show additive relationship. And here are the prepositions that show it. Not many, only 2. Now they're going to work differently grammatically. So what you do is you read that and read the examples and so on. Okay, now you're ready. I would just do each section at a time. Once you've read that theory, now it's time for practice, guided practice. All right, now we read the one on additive, didn't we? So we're not going to go and do reason and results, we're going to do additive. Okay, so there's your practice. Let's take this one just as a random one. Now we're getting, prepositions in there, and we're getting conjunctions, and we're getting adverbs. Which one fits here? The Learning Centre can be a good place to hang out and meet friends. Something or other, you can actually get some work done there.
In addition to?
Well, that's a preposition. We'd have to say, in addition to this, we'd have to have a this, wouldn't we? We'd have to have a noun here. So that's not going to work. Furthermore, yeah. That works, doesn't it? Can you see how that works grammatically and that one doesn't? Because that's a preposition and we've got to have a thing after that, don't we? And as well as is also prepositional. As well as something. You've got to say something there. So that's prepositional as well. So working through the theory and the practice is going to sensitize you to, I mean, we've got many, there's several dozen connectives in English. But what the reason I like this site is because, and there are, not all sites do this. When you're working with connectives, they don't often look at the grammar behind the connectives. And this is strong in the site in the sense that it makes sure you look at it. And you can see, you get immediate feedback there. It's saying correct. Okay, and then so on. Then we have to go back to here again. If we finish that and we're okay with it, then we move on to oppositional. So let's have a look at our categories. I won't go through them all, but we've got oppositional or contrastive, things like but, in contrast, etc. Despite this. We've got time ones, so sequencing, after that, before, then, clauses for time, etc., etc. It's going to take us through those. Yeah? That's your guided practice. I need to go back to here. Sorry, your theory is is in here. Here are your theory ones. There are your lessons, if you like. So you've got conditionals in there. You've got time, etc. Looks like a bit of a different list from what... I find this confusing. I wanted to go in here. Introduction. That's not what we saw. I find the navigation is confusing. We wanted expressing logical relationships, grammatical summary, logical relationships. Ah, there it is. Okay. It's under logical relationships. That's what you need. That's where you're going to get your theory. If you get lost, like I just did, because I find the layout of this site a bit strange, go back to the beginning, click that, just kind of reset the whole thing. Yep. And then if you click there, you'll get that basic list. I often find, once I've gone to the exercise, it's hard to come back and go to the right place. So you might like to reset it. Okay, but you can see there, here are the key categories: additive, oppositional and contrastive, time, reason and result. So that's like cause and effect. Conditional structures, often using if but not always. And examples. And then there's the practice. If you open that up, you get all the practice ones. Alright, so the whole thing is under writing, link 3. Can you just, I'll switch you back to you. I'd like you to go in there, find that site, and just play around with those categories. Make sure you can navigate better than me through that site. Let's set a time limit for this. You've got those 6 categories, I think it is, to work through. Do one every couple of days. Right? And by not this Friday, next Friday, I'll throw you something that'll just test how, what kind of control you have of those connectives. They're obviously fundamental in connecting your ideas for argument for an essay. So they're really important in what you're writing now. Any writing, really.